Hello and welcome to the Rippling Pages. This is the podcast where we have a coffee with the world's most interesting writers to inspire your reading and writing. And it's all crafted and curated by me, Liam Bishop. Now, Dunja has finally launched her literary career, but the shadow and spectre of her brother's death haunts both her and her family. What happens when she returns to investigate her brother's death? And what happens when the truth becomes stranger than the fiction she writes? These are the questions at the heart of Ana Schnabel's novel, Flood Tide. It ranges between the harrowing and the absurdly funny as Dunja searches her former home as she meets old family and friends who both helpfully and unhelpfully trace her past. Ana is a Slovenian writer. This is her second novel and second to be translated into English by Rawley Grau. Her first novel to be translated into English was The Masterpiece, that time by David Limon. In Slovenia, she is a winner of Slovenia's prestigious literary prize, the Kresnik Award. She's also a regular contributor to The Guardian, writing on Balkan politics and culture. Flood Tide is published by Divided Publishing. Ana, thank you very much for joining me on the Written Pages.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for having us. You're actually based in Slovenia right now, aren't you?
I'm always based in Slovenia.
Okay.
Yes, I am currently in the town of Kamnik under the Kamnik-Savinja Alps.
Wow. Okay. And the weather there, I suspect, have we got any snow this week?
No, we only have drizzle. We have had drizzle for weeks. That's our winters now.
Sounds like the UK. Sounds just like the UK,
Yeah, it sounds a bit like UK.
but a
It's
bit
also
more beautiful
gray.
Slovenia. Well, thanks for joining me on the podcast. Let's get into it. Let's get talking about your work and your novels. Before we do, just a reminder to listeners of the show: like, share, follow, subscribe, leave a review of the Rippling Pages if you enjoy this or any other episode, of course. Let's just get into it. Anna, can you just tell me then what we've got a hint there of what the novel is about, but why don't you tell us what's going on in this fantastic, chaotic novel?
First of all, I think it's important for readers to understand that Flood Tide is a fake. It's a fake crime novel. It has a crime-ish hook, but in essence, it's a psychological novel that flirts with modernism quite a lot and subverts it as well. In the novel, you get to meet Dunja Anko, an established writer, who returns to her hometown in the coastal region of Slovenia. And just a note, the coastal region in Slovenia is really small. It's like 42 kilometers of coast. So, not really a region, more of a point. Anyways, she returns there in her late 30s, early 40s to investigate her brother's unexplained death and hopefully write about him, about his story.
The novel opens with this description of her brother Jarzan.
Mhm.
Uh, what was their relationship before she left home?
Before he died, it was quite complicated because, as Dunya also explains in one of the passages in the book, she always suspected that they were quite different ethically, morally, not only in terms of character, but that they had very different values despite being raised by the same parents. And so, of course, because he was the older brother, she looked up to him and she wanted to ingratiate herself with him. But that didn't really succeed. She didn't really succeed in this. So it was a kind of an admiration and rivalry at the same point, and lots of distance between them.
Yeah, that's yeah, and you get a sense of that in the opening. You start with a description, don't you, of I guess it would be a memory, wouldn't it, of Drazen.
Mhm.
And reading that, it's quite a static image. It's not a static image, but it's quite a still moment in the family. And she's watching Drazen smoke on the balcony, and then the novel launches in something like, as you said, this fake crime novel, which takes you on this crazy but compelling path. Why has she been away so long?
After the loss of her brother and also the father, Dunja's mother decided that they will leave the coast because this specific place called Lucia was burdened with a lot of trauma and very problematic, heavy memories. So they moved to Ljubljana, where they wanted to establish a new life, to start again, to heal also. But the healing didn't really work for Dunja because she did not finish the narrative, in her head about her brother. Narratives are very important to her because she is a writer. So she wants to fill the gaps. She feels that she never understood her brother, that they were very, as I explained already, very different, kind of separated by something, and she wants to understand what they were separated by, and of course how he died. And what compels her to get back is the fact that her mother is losing her memory, losing her wits. She's becoming older, and she's not the best sparring partner for Dunja, anymore. Dunja needs somebody to talk to about her brother, and the mother is incapable of doing this. So she searches for other methods, other opportunities to kind of unveil this story.
Mm. And why has it been hidden away? Why is it because people don't talk about these things, or people just don't know the answers to some of these things?
What happened with Dunja, you mean? And with Dražen?
Yeah, well, how come? Is there no communication between her and her mother about what's happened? Do they not talk about it? Or is it? I mean, with Drazen, there's a lot of, we don't know what's happened. That's why she's come back to explore it. But why is it a silence in the family about talking about these things, or is it more of a simply don't know what's happened?
I kind of left it to the reader to try to understand why Dunja has so little information. And I think the hints that I left in the novel is that not even, the mother does not understand her son very well.
Mm,
He was also a stranger to her. So there's um, very little truth or very little information between them.
mm,
And Dunja kind of hopes that there will be more information with other people who grew up with the guy, especially, with people close to Dražen once.
yeah, yeah. And that's where she goes, and that's where the novel takes us, isn't it? The perspective is Dunya's, and um, I love that description of him. And you were talking about the different values they have, and whether visual identity is and always a reliable indicator of that. But several times she calls him a superstar, or he tries to be
Mhm.
a superstar, doesn't he? And he loves Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
um, were those kind of details you put in to set them apart?
I also wanted to depict a certain era, of Slovene transition, because you have to understand something about Yugoslavia. It was not completely separate from the West in terms of cultural production, but still it had its own prominent cultural production. So there was very little interest or very little incentive to listen to foreign music, to listen
Yeah.
to Western music. And with the transition, all these megastars came to life or in Slovenia. So Dražen is a fan of Michael Jackson in the early 90s, where Jackson was in the late 80s, when Jackson's star was already fading a little bit because of all the, well, not controversy, also crime. Um, with Michael Jackson, I
Mm.
wanted to tell the reader where we are, in which period of
Yeah.
time period, but I also wanted to tackle this teenage fascination with certain figures. It could be
Mm.
whatever, but I chose Michael Jackson because I have fans in the family, so I know a lot about the guy.
It's a very specific choice, and it makes you think a lot of things when you put, and it's
Yeah,
kind of stands out because well, the description you have is just to pick this out is well, this isn't about Michael Jackson, but he's also wearing a T-shirt promoting Crash Chocolate, is it?
yeah. But that's something you have to understand about Dunja's and Dražan's family is that they're not very rich, they
Yeah,
belong to the lower classes. So Dražan tries to emulate Michael Jackson's style by wearing certain t-shirts and pants that have the same color but are not of the same making as Michael Jackson's. So that's why the t-shirts and that's why he wants to have a certain type of shoes, that's
yeah.
why he stands on the balcony pretending or standing as if he's waving to a big crowd. I didn't pick him by chance, only because my family members are or were fans, but because his figure embodies certain issues that are also prevalent or prominent in the novel. You know, um, he's
What is it about Michael Jackson? What is it about? So there's a cultural identity there with Jackson that clashes, but is also quite desirable. So
yes,
what are the elements? Does Drazen see? Does he not see those troubling elements to someone like Jackson, or is he compelled by them?
he um, he dies before all the troubling elements of Michael Jackson's life and career arise, but Dunya suspects that he would defend him in
Right.
any case because he was so obsessed by it, and also because he was prone to developing, what's called a false consciousness
Mm.
about reality. And Michael Jackson would be one of the things he would develop a false consciousness about. But Michael Jackson is, if I would want to explain what the function of Michael Jackson is in the novel, then I would have to spoil
Okay.
the ending. And I don't want to do that.
I don't think you have to. I think it's a very significant cultural icon, isn't it? And it makes you think about a lot of things, and
Yeah.
especially in that perhaps that era in which you're writing, the later phases of Yugoslavia.
Hmm.
Um, it's a really interesting contrast. The clash of identities that sort of people like or Michael Jackson embodies, and that feels a little bit like what Drazen is to some extent, because Dunya's searching for him, searching for his past, searching for his legacy. But there's all these kind of troubling, and he's not Michael Jackson, but it's how we reconcile different elements of people. We move through the novel, and Dunya starts investigating his death. Um, but the novel moves into a different space. Can you just tell me about then some of, you called it a fake crime novel. Can you tell me about some of the choices that you made in doing that?
Followed Dunya's neurotic mind and her inability to be with other people and to really communicate with other people, because that's also quite prominent in the novel that she's quite clumsy with others. And because of her clumsiness, she doesn't really investigate. Things just kind of happen to her, and she just kind of meets people by chance. And there's only one contact that she, how do you say, instigates, or that she um, initiates,
Yeah.
yes. um Otherwise she just flows through time and space in search of the truth, with a capital T, about Dražan. And that's also because she has no kind of detective equipment, because she does not have any investigative equipment, because she doesn't know what she's doing. She considers herself a fake actor in her own story, in her own investigation. And she
Yeah.
always compares what she's doing with kind of novelistic or prose methodologies or crime novel methodologies. She compares herself to Agatha Christie or other types of writers. Um, but she's a failed detective, more of a writer.
Well, I tell you what we're going to do, Anna. We're going to have a quick break on the Rippling Pages. Do come back. We're going to talk more about Flood Tide. Okay, did you know that there is, of course, I say this every week on the Rippling Pages, but there is a Rippling Pages bookshop, and it's online, and the link to it is in the show notes. And basically, on there are all the books from Rippling Pages guests, including Floodtide by Ana Schnabl. If you go on there, you will find that all books are sourced from indie booksellers. So not only does buying from that bookshop support the podcast, but it also supports indie bookshops across the country. And of course, the indie publishers that people like Anna write for. Okay, let's get back into it. Let's get back into Floodtide with Ana Schnabl. Welcome back to the Written Pages. Welcome back, Anna. Let's get back into it. What's it like inhabiting? What's it like being inside someone's consciousness like that? It looks like it was quite a bit of fun at times.
Yeah, it came easy. I think I will use your word, I reconciled a couple of my own neurotic moments with this
Okay.
novel. It was very, very easy to write it. It was, in comparison to my first novel, it was quite uninhibited in terms of style and in terms of structure. I gave it my all, but without, really trying for it. It was just that moment in time when I could do it. And also, the funny thing about me as a writer is that I don't like to read modernist novels. I don't enjoy Proust. I don't enjoy Virginia Woolf. I don't enjoy any of these things. But when it comes to my writing, I'm really good at emulating the stream of consciousness somehow. I cannot write like this anymore. I mean, not in this point in time.
Yeah, because excuse me, I appreciate you wrote this a few years ago now, and obviously it's been translated. And we're talking about, and I think you said you wrote this 2022. It was published in Slovenia.
Yeah, but I finished it in 2020 during
Right.
Corona.
Okay. So during the pandemic, and you said it came quite naturally, and which is
Mhm.
ironic because you said that there's a lot of artifice around this, and you've described her as a fake crime writer. She doesn't really have the tools. She doesn't really have the mechanisms. There's a bit of artifice to Drazen and Michael Jackson and performance, but for you, and you said this came quite naturally, and it felt like a process that it sounds like it was a process. I don't want to sound too hippie-ish about this, but it sounds like a writing process that you maybe had to go through in some form or another.
Yeah. It was definitely, to me. I don't want to instrumentalize this book, but it was writing this book was a rite of passage for me somehow. Um, it was an opportunity for me to see or experience freedom, because I'm quite cerebral. I'm very systematic.
Mm,
I'm quite structured as a writer. I really
yeah.
always know what I want to do. Here, I just I really don't want to say sound new agey because I'm not,
Well, we both are. Don't worry about it.
yeah. But something released,
Yeah.
after writing for quite some time, and now after this book, I write different again. Um, but it's also easy for me to step into a neurotic mind because I am myself quite neurotic, and it was an erotic time, with the COVID pandemic. So things kind of fell into place. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, the word that came to mind when I was reading you was cerebral. Your characters are
Mhm.
very cerebral. The masterpiece is your first novel is quite a cerebral novel. It's very internalized. Very writers trying to work. Well, the both books about writers, and
Mhm.
writing is a very cerebral activity, isn't it? But um, and you're not really interested in sort of the scenery and the world around them. Um, and I think that's interesting because as you move through the novel, what really provokes or seems to provoke Dunja quite a lot and bring things back to her, she's sort of brought back into time, in the present day. Like smells are really important to her. Smells
Mhm.
remind her of home. The ice cream stand that she visits that's not changed over the years. So it's interesting that you said that it is quite a cerebral characters.
Flood Tide is a little different to the masterpiece in the sense that
Mm,
it does describe the environment quite a lot, but always through Dunya's perspective. Dunya is like a filter for her immediate environment. And a friend of mine, when he read Flood Tide, said that it could be considered as an ethnographic document of a certain time on the Adriatic coast, because it does depict this little specificities of Slovene Adriatics, and also Croatian. They're very similar in a sense. So here we don't really step out of Dunja's mind, but Dunja does look at her, environment. She notices the sunset. She notices the hotels. She notices this monoculture of the Slovene coast.
Yeah, can we talk then about the Adriatic coast and the significance of it? You've spoken a little bit there, but why is this the setting for this novel?
Well, one is very sentimental, that I spent a lot of time on the Slovene coast when I was a child and a teenager, because my aunt had my aunt had an apartment there. So I spent whole summers there, and I got attached to it. And the second reason is maybe a little more complicated. Since I've been asked this so many times before, now I really understand why I chose the Slovene coast. I'm quite obsessed with Slovene transition, which you probably noticed since you read the masterpiece as well. I'm interested in this period in time, the late 80s and early 90s, or late 90s as well, in Slovenia, because I came of age during the transition from socialism to capitalism, or as some historians would say, from socialism to democracy, which I have a problem with. And with capitalism, capitalism really came through the big door, or really came very strongly to Slovenia. It was not a slow progression like in the West, where where there's periods to the development of late capitalism. Here, everything happened at once. Suddenly, there were malls everywhere. Suddenly, there was products everywhere. Suddenly, there were agencies everywhere. Blah blah blah. And of course, with capitalism also came the internet, because it was the 90s. And I think that this period in time, like the Slovene transition, these processes are very, can be, how can I say, maybe I can turn this sentence around. The Slovene coast is a very good lab for understanding how the transition really worked, because there everything changed in an instant, very brutally. You went through from families owning gelaterias and families owning pizzerias, or sock stores, whatever, to big chains taking over their restaurants, their gelaterias, blah blah blah. And this is also one of the elements I try to describe, or I try to present to the reader of Flood Tide.
That's so interesting. So that's because you write in the novel then about some of the things that haven't changed when Dunja returns home. And one of the things that keeps coming back to, as I've mentioned, is the ice cream and the ice cream stand. And I read that at first then as this was a critique of home. Home's not really changed. We're still stuck in the same ways. But it sounds like there's actually more a sense of, oh, it's nice that there's some element of this that hasn't changed. The ice cream did not disappoint. It was exactly as it once been, precisely the best. As exactly as sweet and light and fresh as ever, which is a very nice description, I understand. But considering that home, there's been some, some really challenging things that have happened. There is actually then something within all of this that Dunja really likes about returning home to the Adriatic coast.
Yeah, there's an ambivalence to it, as I think is quite typical for everybody that returns home. There's always elements to home that provoke something warm. And with Dunja, because she is just like me, an ice cream enjoyer, she appreciates the fact that it's, still the same. Because you have to understand something about the Adriatic coast. Albanian gelaterias are the best on the Adriatic coast. So it's nice to still have the best thing in her hometown, ex-hometown. But of course, there's also something stale about the people that have not changed much. That got stuck there. All the environment around changed. The hotels are new. There's malls. Um, everything is, as I said, everything caters to tourist needs or their desires. There's burger joints which were never, to be found in
Yeah.
the 80s, for instance, during socialism. But the people are still the same, and this is what perhaps annoys Dunya quite a lot. That they're stuck in time. Um,
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. So, are some of these memories then some of your memories as well that Dunya has?
yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Especially, this ice cream joint. It still exists.
Oh, does it?
Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's an actual place. Sadly, it was bought by a bigger chain in the last year, but I have visited this place for almost 40 years. So it
Wow.
was nice. It was like the last remnant of tempi passati.
Okay. And it's an Albanian ice cream store, essentially
Yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah.
Adriatic Coast. Amazing. Well, if you're listening, the Adriatic Coast, whatever the name of the shop is, this is or if you're out there, if you're out that way, then go and visit this ice cream
Buchka.
bookstore.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, but I love that. I mean, you talk, and this is talking about modernist novels. I don't really like modernist novels, but a lot of them start with this very strong kernel. Talk about Proust. It starts with this very strong kernel of. It starts with the smell of the Madeleine biscuits, doesn't it? And not to say
Mhm.
that Proust is the only person who's done that, but the core of it, then there is this really strong sensual memory that you have about this ice cream store.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of sadness in this novel. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of sadness, a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of frustration for Dunya. But I like the fact there's this nice core memory, I guess, that it centers around. Okay, well, as we go through this journey, the sense that obviously Dunya is trying to learn about her brother, who he was, what he wasn't, and we're kind of learning about him in reverse. Do you think she learns more about Drazen as a person, not kind of what's happened to him, because that's a bit of a spoiler, but does she learn more about her family and her brother through this process?
Not really.
No.
That's the what she learns about him ultimately. The reason why he died is not something that's easy to grasp or easy to come to terms with. Um,
Yeah.
no, of course he's still a stranger to her at the end of the novel, despite her best efforts. But it's also, a commentary to general familial dynamics. People who live with us can be complete strangers to us. We can just like live as roommates in families, which is, it's very common.
Yeah, I wonder if that was something that you discovered in writing the novel. Was that a belief that you set out with, that we don't really learn more about people? Do we learn more about people after they die through their legacies?
Oh my God, that's
Is that a bit heavy for 10:30
no, I
in?
don't I don't really believe in legacy. I don't
Okay.
think it's a it's a term or a concept that I would be interested in. Not sure that we can okay, understand each other, or
Yeah.
that we can come to the end of each other, really,
Wow, that's
in like
interesting.
our daily interactions, of course. Unless people are very, very, very boring, which is also the case sometimes, but generally, I don't think so.
Come to yeah, I like that phrase though. We can't come to the end of people. And I'm interested in a word that you chose before, not describing people, but the place, that ambivalence.
Mhm.
And when you say ambivalence, I get it's in the sense of the quite Freudian way, the way that he used the word, which is really strong feelings of love and hate, not kind of boredom with people, not a either way. It's a very strong feeling of either love and hate. Um,
It's kind of the undercurrent of flood tide in general. Dunya is very ambivalent about everything, actually. There's
yeah,
only a couple of points in the novel where she relaxes into or eases into some kind of warmth or love. Otherwise, it's this constant battle between I like this, I hate this. She, for instance, enjoys Katarina's company, but hates it at the same time because she looks down on her. It's this constant flux, and that's why Dunya is probably she cannot be considered the best person in the world, or the easiest.
But that's important, though, isn't it? That's important that we have narrators that are. Well, I mean, actually, maybe we're talking about a character we're talking about contending with feelings of ambivalence, but that's something the reader has to do on some level. We have to sort of sit with, because we're in Dunja's head.
Yeah.
We're in there, we're in a embodying, aren't we? And we have to contend with that with the narrator as well, don't we? As a reader.
Yeah, I think it's quite challenging for some people.
Mm.
I realized to sit with people who are not the prettiest, internally. But I think it's important for literature to bring people to other unpleasant people, not because necessarily we need to understand them, but we need to at least observe them, learn to observe them, and then decide for ourselves, what we're going to do with them. I don't think that I don't have any strong feelings about Dunja. Let me put it that way. And I described her as I saw her or as I experienced her. And I let readers decide whether, they would want to spend time with her in real life or not. And I also let the readers decide about what they're going to do with this main ethical problem of the novel that arises at the end, basically.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I like that. So we're moving through. I just wondered if we could then just talk about friends, people around in the environment that do and don't help Dunya. So who are the other characters that come into this novel that you wrote in there?
Well, they help her quite a lot, actually, not by what they say, but by what they imply.
Yeah.
Um, by Dunya is very observant, or might I say, she's very judgmental also at the same time. Um, so she observes what is left to be what is unsaid in the contexts, in the conversations she has with her former friends. And meeting them is, of course, crucial in her quote unquote investigation. Without them, she would not be able to move anywhere. But she just, she functions on hunches. Once she realizes that supposedly there was a rift between Christian and Dražen because of Mirela, she tries to contact her. She's also quite stuck in time, but she's stuck in time for a reason,
Yeah.
for a very strong reason.
I think it goes back to the idea of motivations to sort of help and not help
Mhm.
Dunya, doesn't it? And yeah, I think there's something in this then, isn't there, about the different people and so I wouldn't say motivations, but parts of ourselves that sort of don't let us help people, maybe, or we have our own sort of challenges to relationships with people and that kind of silence and the vacancy that is left behind in some of these people. Well,
Mhm.
just one thing that I wanted to ask you, Anna, is about smoking, if you don't mind. So a lot of
Mhm.
characters, a lot of characters in your work, and the picture on the cover of Floodtide is incredibly distinctive. Um, I don't know if you can just talk about why your characters like to smoke a lot.
Let me. I have a lot to say about this question now because
Okay.
in the past months, when I was interviewed by UK interviewers, I was asked this question all the time. But before, when Flood Tide came out in Serbia or when it came out in Slovenia for the first time, I was never asked this question. Nobody noticed
Oh wow.
people smoke because smoking in this part of Europe is a very everyday thing. It's just not an event. A lot of people smoke. Okay, more and more people vape right now, which I think is hideous. But yeah, smoking is okay. One, it's a narrative device, but it's also a culture. This is a culture of smokers and coffee drinkers, and I'm also a smoker. I'm not as heavy as I used to be because I'm getting older and I try to take care of my health, but I do smoke. And smoking helps me think and it helps my characters think as well. It kind of propels, it's like a propulsive force for thinking. for me and my characters. It's not like a character trait at all, it's just something people do. So
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Well, I mean, I enjoyed the descriptions of it because you said it's a significant moment where the characters think, and your characters are thinking a lot.
oh, they're thinking a lot, yeah.
But there's something that's not quite right about a character vaping, is there?
Mm-mm.
It doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem. I don't know.
No,
It doesn't seem as cool. That's for sure.
it's just the hand gesture, the way you have to, the way you hold the vape is not, it's just not cool.
Mm.
It looks too much like drinking, it's not that distinct, having something between your index finger and middle finger. It's just, nah, I will never get my characters to vape. No.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, maybe it is. I mean, that's the kind of thing about Europe and going to Europe and visiting Europe. The smell of cigarettes, which is not as common over now. It's the smell of bubble gum and whatever flavors you can stick in the vape. Well, we're not, just to say, listeners, we're not funded by the tobacco
Tobacco
industry in any way or
industry.
form, just in case.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we'd be a lot. I think we'd be a lot richer if we were. But no, I like it. But it is interesting. Then it is a bit of a cultural difference in between ideas of smoking. I know we've got another novel in Slovenian that's not been translated into English yet. Is that going to be translated, or what else might be coming next for
Yeah.
Slovenian listeners or English listeners?
So I think in 2027, my latest novel, September, the awarded novel, will be translated.
And you are, from what I've read, someone whose style and work shifts and changes. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops. Well, Anna, it has been my pleasure to get to know you. It's been my pleasure to get to know your work. Everything we've spoken about in terms of the transition period and this really interesting journey that Dunja goes on. But for now, Flood Tide is published by Divided Publishing. It's out now. But otherwise, Ana Schnabl, thank you very much for joining me on the Ripping Pages.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.